Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekalona, and this is Nashville. Any frequent flyer will tell you traveling will enrich your life. Immerse yourself in another culture, experience life in a new place, and you'll understand just how connected we all are. Officials in Nashville get it because for decades, our city has taken part in the Sister Cities program, building intentional relationships with places like Mendoza, Argentina, Magdeburg, Germany, and Belfast, Northern Ireland. So how does the Sister Cities program work? Who can get involved? And what will our newest sister city be? That's coming up later this hour. But first, today is the second and final day of the Southern Baptist Convention's annual meeting. Over the course of 2 days, more than 12,000 representatives, also known as messengers, vote on important policies that could reshape the future of SBC congregations, including those here in Nashville. Liam Adams is religion reporter for the Tennessean. He joins us now from New Orleans, where he's covering the meeting. Liam, thanks for being here, and welcome back to This Is Nashville.
Hey, Khalil. Thanks for having me on. Miss being in the studio with you, but thanks for having me on remotely.
Well, we'll take this connection for sure, my friend. Okay, so, there were some really big questions and decisions made yesterday on the first day of the meeting. That includes a vote for the president of the SBC. Tell us, what happened?
Yeah, the incumbent SBC president, Bart Barber, a Texas pastor, he won re-election for another term, receiving 68% of the vote. And he defeated Mike Stone, who is a Georgia pastor. These two candidates represent differing factions within the SBC. President Barber represents sort of a mainstream conservative faction in the SBC, while Mike Stone is a leader with a sort of opposition conservative faction that wants to pull the denomination further to the right. And so President Barber's reelection is sort of is yet another defeat for this opposition conservative faction. And so I think it was pretty significant, and it definitely affected subsequent votes that happened after that and this morning.
You mentioned those votes, and there were a number of other resolutions voted on yesterday. What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, so a lot of actually the results we learned this morning. So there are sort of, I'll break it down that there are two main issues kind of going into this SBC annual meeting. One was about sexual abuse reform, and the other was about the status of women pastors. I'll start with the abuse reform. Throughout this past year, there's been what's called the SBC Abuse Reform Implementation Task Force. It's been doing work to sort of carry out changes throughout this past year, but that work they weren't able to complete. And so they basically asked for renewal to continue its work for another year. And about 30 minutes ago, the messengers decided that the Abuse Reform Task Force would be renewed to continue its work for another year.
All right. So
give
us some analysis. What does that mean as far as the Southern Baptist Convention really attempting to reconcile with these allegations of sexual abuse that have taken place in member churches?
Yeah, what it means is that there is sustained appetite within the SBC for ongoing abuse reform. Last year at the 2022 SBC annual meeting in Anaheim, California, the messengers overwhelmingly approved a series of sort of reforms. This was the approval of those reforms came on the heels of this sort of historic report on how SBC leaders have handled abuse in the past. And so there was a lot of attention on the SBC to respond to this pretty damning report. And that's exactly what they did. The level of attention on this issue and sort of engagement is sort of, it's intensified or it's sort of, there's been more engagement on it, but there's also been some wavering on it in the past year. So the vote this morning was a sign of whether Southern Baptists want to continue this work and see it to its completion. And really, this work around abuse reform, survivors and advocates and experts say is just the bare minimum.
So what's the other measure that they were voting on this morning?
Yeah, so there was a series of decisions that they had to make around this debate on the status of women pastors. Really quick, the SBC doctrinal statement says that the office of pastor is limited to men as qualified by Scripture. But it's been muddier, I should say, on whether that doctrinal statement can be used to essentially kick churches out. And that's what happened in February. SBC leaders decided to disfellowship 5 churches that have women pastors. And fast forward to now, 2 of those 5 churches decided to appeal their ouster. So one is very well known Saddleback Church in Southern California, founded by Pastor Rick Warren, and the other church was Fern Creek Baptist Church in Louisville, Kentucky. And so the pastors of those churches appealed their ouster, basically asked the messengers to allow their churches back into the SBC. But the messengers decided to uphold the ouster of those churches. So those churches are sort of permanently out of the SBC, and it's because they have women pastors.
Now, did you talk to anyone who voted no?
No, it's been kind of a whirlwind this morning. All the big votes have been kind of back to back, and I'll add to that, which is literally 3 minutes ago, there was another very significant vote as it relates to the status of women pastors. There was a separate motion to that essentially enshrines a ban on women pastors. It amends the SBC Constitution. And it was uncertain how that would play out. And the messengers also approved that measure. So what this shows, both the vote on this constitutional amendment and on the appeals of Saddleback and Fern Creek, shows that the SBC believes very strongly that the office of pastor should be limited to men.
To give me a sense of the energy in the room when that decision was being made, when that vote took place.
Well, I can speak to the appeals by those churches because I stepped out to take this interview when they made the vote, but I was keeping up on Twitter. I think it's definitely surprising. I think a lot more people expected the constitutional amendment to have a harder time getting approved. So I think that was just sort of it was a decisive sort of statement by the SBC on where it stands with women pastors. I'll speak to the appeals by Saddleback and Fern Creek. So that was yesterday afternoon. And Rick Warren, a celebrity pastor, best-selling author, he appealed Saddleback's ouster. And there was sort of this kind of raucous there's booing of him at some points. He's been campaigning for this appeal for weeks now, and it hasn't there's been a lot of Southern Baptists, I think, that haven't appreciated his approach in his campaign. And so you saw that when people were booing him as he was speaking. And then you saw that in the results, which was more than 85% of the vote was to uphold the ouster of Saddleback. And it was an even higher percentage for Fern Creek. And Fern Creek's pastor, who's a woman, Linda Barnes Popham, she made the appeal from the floor of the convention.
Now tell us, the issue of gender-affirming care has also come up. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the only remaining decisions that sort of the business kind of tapers down at this point. There's a few kind of things in the afternoon, and one of them is whether the SBC whether the messengers will approve a resolution opposing gender-affirming care for trans people. And I expect that resolution to receive widespread support. The SBC is very conservative on issues of sexuality and gender. They've passed previous resolution on transgender identity, and it's pretty unequivocal where Southern Baptists stand on gender-affirming care for trans folks. And so just to explain, resolutions are kind of this statement of what Southern Baptists want to say to the world about what it believes. So it's a sort of non-binding sort of declaration. So it won't have sort of material effect, but it will certainly be a strong statement if they approve this resolution. And again, I expect they will.
Liam Adams is the religion reporter for the Tennessean. You can find the link to his story in today's episode post at thisisnashville.org. Liam, again, thanks for being here, and thank you for your reporting, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
We have to take a short break. When we come back, we'll learn about the new sister city for Nashville and take you out with the delegation to visit Erbil. Join the conversation by tweeting us at This Is Nashville. We'll be right back.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekolona, and this is Nashville. That is the Kurdish national anthem as performed by students at the Ishik Private School in Erbil, the capital of the Kurdistan region of Iraq. That was a part of the warm welcome for a delegation from Nashville last month. The group included Nashville Mayor John Cooper and former Mayor Bill Purcell. They were there because Erbil is about to become Nashville's newest sister city. Here to talk more about what that means exactly is Sarah Lingo, Executive Director of Sister Cities Nashville, Nawzad Hawrami of the Salahadeen Center, and former Mayor Bill Purcell. Thank you all for being here, and welcome to This Is Nashville.
Thank you for having us today.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
Wonderful pleasure. So let's start talking about the recent trip to Erbil. Sarah, what was that experience like for you?
Well, it was amazing. Somewhere I never thought I would get to go. We started talking about this relationship during the pandemic probably 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And we're approached by some Kurdish folks in Nashville about it. And I know the history of this goes back a lot longer than just a few years. And so last year, we had a delegation from Erbil, including their governor, many of their city officials come to Nashville and make a really wonderful appeal about why we should consider a partnership with them. So over the last year, since they've been here, we've talked to the community, we've talked to elected officials in town, and really have a overwhelming response of support for adding another sister city to our docket. And it looks like it's going to be Erbil, so we're excited about that. So with all of that planning and with everything that we do to create a relationship, we needed to do a reciprocal trip there, and we were able to do that last May, and it was really exciting. And
I heard the children singing.
Yeah.
Paint the picture for me. What was it like at that ceremony?
So one of my favorite things to do when I go abroad is to visit a school. I used to teach in Thailand in the Peace Corps, so it's something that I care very deeply about, and I think gives you a picture of what the society is really like. Kids are very honest, right? Mm-hmm. So we go in and, of course, it's a school. It's loud. The kids are changing classes. Some of them are louder than others. The teachers want us to see the best parts of it, and they've prepared this musical performance for us, and it was really just a warm welcome, and I think one of the many warm welcomes we had in Erbil.
Tell me, where are we in the process of making this relationship official?
We're pretty far along. So our board voted last week. The process obviously starts with dating, like you would. You don't want to get married right out of the gate, right?
Yeah. Gotta take your time. Fools rush in,
get to know each other. So we've been doing that for a few years. And last week, part of the trip was to determine whether or not we thought this would be a viable partnership. And last week, our board voted to proceed. And I think, so right now, what happens next is there's a resolution that has to pass through council. We've drafted that or helped to draft that resolution. And I think that it will be heard on July 6th, but we'll know in the next few days when it'll go on their calendar.
Okay. Now, Mayor Purcell, you've been involved in the Sister Cities program for quite some time now. Tell us, what makes Erbil an ideal sister city for Nashville?
Well, I think there are many things, obviously, and most importantly, so many Kurds, people of Kurdistan, have chosen to make Nashville their home, beginning literally in the late 1970s and right through to today. We've had a great interest by people who could not be in, particularly Iraq during the time of Saddam Hussein, to come to Nashville. 25,000 people now live in our region and have brought with them their culture, their understanding, and frankly, their joy in Nashville. But also, the regions themselves share other similarities, I think, that would not have been self-evident to us all. These are roughly the same size. The metropolitan area of Erbil is about 1.7 million. Nashville is about 2 million. The area of Kurdistan, about 7 million people, roughly the same population as Tennessee. They have a great history of being welcoming as a people, of being diverse in their outlook, and their welcoming nature, I think, is one of the reasons they have found Nashville so special a place for them, but also one of the things that we share in our very roots.
Now, I understand that you had plans to go to Erbil when you were serving as mayor, but you weren't able to make it. So how does it feel to finally visit?
It is a dream come true, actually. I had first, as a city, led the effort to host Iraqi voting back in 2003. That was the first time I think we saw as a city how many people were here and how much they loved being here in Nashville. Literally thousands of people came to our fairgrounds. They put their finger in the ink, they voted, and they cried because they'd never been able to vote before until they had the safety and security of Nashville. In 2004, we did it again. In 2007, they sent their representatives to us. They had reopened civil air transport. It was tourists could go. I wanted to go. I said I would go. And then it was the end of my second term and I ran out of time. So this was a promise I had made, and it was a promise I got to keep somewhat later than I had anticipated, but thankfully it was a wonderful trip, as Sarah indicated.
Now, Nawzad, you're from Kurdistan. What does it mean to you that the newest sister city is in Kurdistan?
It means a great thing that, first I would like to thank for all the delegations from Nashville. They went to Kurdistan. They give them the hard times transport to overseas, and they see the Kurdistan by themselves. For a long while we talked to them, our friends in Nashville, about the Kurdistan, but finally it was a great moment that they see by themselves how the Kurdistan they are welcome people they have, and also how the Kurdistan is safe and secured for the non-Kurdish people, or especially foreigner people. Yeah, for me it was a great moments, to see the delegation from the United States and building this relation, improving the relations between the Kurds and United States. Mm-hmm. The root of relations go back to 1960 during the JFK's leadership, And I remember my dad when he talked about that we received the AIDS 1963 when I'm born in Kurdistan. So, and also still until 1974 when we left Kurdistan to Iran after collapsed the Kurdish revolution, still we have the paper bag of that aid that we received, the wheat and the rice they received from the United States. That was including some paper bags that they show us to how we are. We have a friend, so we don't worry about these brutal countries that they're ruling the Kurds, they're ruling the Iraq, and they're fighting us. So building a relation with the nations is improving that relation. And also to transfer the smile face of U.S. smile face to Kurdistan, to the Middle Eastern, to know how the American people, they are nice and how they are friendly, how they're friendship.
Tell me about one of the highlights for you to go back on this most recent trip.
For most highlights, is give the great message to them, to Kurdistan, and also to myself, how a great country we have, United States. I come as an immigrant before 23 years, and I go back with the delegation to the Kurdistan to building the relation between the two nations. It was for me one of the great things, and thanks for the Nashvilleian people, thanks for Nashvilleian metro government and Nashvilleian sister cities for their great programs, and this approved that. Practically approved by how the welcome city they are, how the diverse city we have.
Now, Sarah, you were breaking down some of the process of how a city becomes a sister city to Nashville. You mentioned that it's going to go up in front of the city council. Do you have an idea of where the city council is going to land when they do vote on this?
Yeah, I think, so last year when the governor of Erbil came here, anybody that follows council, I think will find this interesting. He addressed the council, and all of them sat quietly. You could hear a pin drop in that room, and they paid attention, and they were so engaged with what he was saying. And so that indicated to me that there was a great interest in this. And I have not had anyone say anything negative about this. I always try to weigh, we always try to weigh the pros and the cons of a relationship, right? So I guess I would say that they will all be a part of this vote, and my hope is that they all sign on to the resolution, obviously. So fingers crossed.
Okay. So last May, a group from Erbil came to Nashville as a part of that trip. The governor you just mentioned, Ahmed Koshna, addressed City Council. Let's listen.
دو هوکاری زۆر سەرەکی هەیە ئێمە ئەمریکا و ناشڤیل حکوومەت و گەلەکەیمان خۆش دەبێتن لەبەرەوەی یەکێکیان سەربازە ئازاکانی ئێوە وڵاتی ئێمەیان لەدەست دیکتاتۆرێکی زۆر زاڵم ڕزگار کرد.
There are two main reasons that we love the country of the United States and the city of Nashville. One of them to be your great soldiers, your brave soldiers, saved us, saved our nation from a brutal dictator.
هۆکاری دووەم ئەوەیە بەشێکی زۆر لە ڕەوەندی کوردستان لە ویلایەتە یەکگرتوەکانی ئەمریکا لە ناشفێڵن کە ئەوان بە تەواوەتی هەست بە خاوەن ماڵیەتی دەکەن و لێرە هەست بە غوربەت ناکەن ئەوەش دەلالەتی گەورەی دڵی ئێوە وەکو خەڵکی ئەو شارە و حکوومەتی ئەو شارەیە.
The second reason, the biggest delegation from Kurdish, the biggest diaspora, is located in the city of Nashville. These people here, they do not feel they are strangers. They have been welcomed by you. They have been welcomed by your big hearts.
That was the governor of Erbil addressing Nashville's Metro Council last year, and you can really hear what a riveting speech it was, like you mentioned, Sarah.
Indeed.
Nawzad, what are your thoughts hearing that?
I thought this great things that is exactly what he pointed. That's we feel that we more than 25,000 people, Kurdish people living in Nashville, and they built the community since 1976 and up, and they have great contribution to the Nashvilleian, financially, culture-wise, language-wise, and also the food menu of foods, and building many businesses that have a great impact and also input to the Nashvilleian to improve it, to develop the Nashville, And when I started, when I come to here, they welcome me everywhere. When I went to the mayor office, attend my city academy, and there was a great program under the leadership of Mayor Kaldin, started and still continues, They opened the door of the mayor for me, and I became the member of a New American Advisory Council under the leadership of the New American office and the mayor office, and we built a good relation. We participate in the political processes, federal-wise and city-wise too.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekalona. We're talking this hour about this newest sister city to Nashville, Erbil. My guests are Sarah Lingo, Nawzad, Hawrami, and former Mayor Bill Purcell. Join the conversation by tweeting us at This Is Nashville. I'm curious, what are some of the challenges in creating a relationship with Erbil, Mayor Purcell?
It begins, obviously, with an understanding of each other and the importance of the relationship. That's dependent on the commitment of the people of each place. When President Eisenhower started this movement in 1956, his sense was that it was always going to be about the people in those places. He called them citizen diplomats. And his intention, frankly, was that by better understanding of each other and commitment to each other over the long term, there would be nothing less than a greater chance for world peace. That is what President Eisenhower said, and that's what he set out to do. So the challenge is to connect, which we have accomplished. And that the challenge then becomes sustaining those connections over time, finding the places where we can share with each other and give to each other in healthcare, in higher education exchanges, in K through 12 exchanges, in arts exchanges. All of these we saw as great possibilities while we were in Erbil, and I think the people of Erbil feel the same way about us.
What you're saying makes me curious about the core of the relationship. Is it between government officials or more between the people of the cities?
It is between the people of the cities. Way back in 1956, when this began, President Eisenhower said, we have two deeply held convictions that unite us in purpose. First is our belief in effective and responsive local government as a principal bulwark of freedom. That's the government part. But second is our faith in the great promise of people to people and sister city affiliations in helping build the solid structure of world peace. That was the dream of President Dwight Eisenhower just after World War II, at the height of the Cold War. And that's still at the core of Sister Cities.
Sarah, how much of the push for Sister Cities comes from the community?
Well, we would hope that all of the push comes from the community, or that it would be 50-50 from, our community and our potential sister community. I think that, like Bill said, it's incredibly important that we have community members who help lift this up and hold it up. It's something that we intend to last forever. So we need sustainable support for this, and it's not an agreement that we enter into lightly.
Now, Nawzad, what do you want the people of Nashville to gain from having Erbil as our newest sister city?
Yeah, I think they will have a new friends in the overseas, especially in the Middle East, especially in the places maybe they think different about the American peoples, and they will see, they have a great friend, and they improve this friendship. I hope it will be the point that develops to other cities in the Middle East. And also I will ask the Metro Council, and Nashvilleian community to support this proposal, to support this resolution. And Metro Council, I ask them, to approve this resolution to go to the practical steps.
Sarah, as Nawzad was talking about having new friends, you flashed this really great smile. And that kind of just shows how much this really matters to people here, huh?
Well, going back to this school, I think this experience was really telling about what we want to happen. And so it was me and 3 of the other delegation members, all of us women, and the kids wanted us to sign autographs. I'm not really sure why, but that's what we were doing, and we thought it was funny. And then one little boy comes over and he was like, I don't know what you guys are doing. Americans are just regular people. And it was so funny. So we all had a good laugh about it. But I think that's, we're all just regular people, and we all just want friendship and to be, acknowledged for the things that we're doing. And so it's just really exciting to think about having friends on that side of the world.
Now, Mayor Purcell, you've been a part of the Sister City activities in Magdeburg, Germany, Belfast, Ireland, and Cannes, France, just to name a few. What do you want Nashvilleians to know about the opportunities that having sister cities provides?
I think people need to really be open to all that can come, not just from international travel, but from international exchanges, from people who come stay at your home, people who come and share a meal, people who come and in the end help us understand how great and diverse and big our world is, but in the end, how much we are alike wherever we are, wherever we came from or are going to be. It brings us together as a people. And that's what Nashville is about, always has been, and I hope always will.
That is former Mayor Bill Purcell. He was joined by Nawzad Hawrami of the Salahadeen Center. I want to thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Sarah Lingo will stick with us through the break. When we come back, we'll learn about some of our other sister cities and why we have them. Join the conversation by tweeting us at This Is Nashville. We'll be right back. I'm Khalil Ekalona, and this is Nashville. As we just heard, Erbil in the Kurdistan region of Iraq will become Nashville's 10th sister city, joining places like Belfast, Northern Ireland, Cannes, France, Chengdu, China, Edmonton, Canada, Kamakura, Japan, Magdeburg, Germany, Mendoza, Argentina, Tamworth, Australia, and Taiyuan, China. Those are a lot of places across the globe that have formed a connection to our city. Now, let's take some time to learn more about the history of this program that has been going on for decades. I'd like to introduce my next guests. Valentina Boulin is the administrator at Colegio ICEI in Mendoza, Argentina, and William Watson is a college student from Bellevue who traveled to Mendoza last summer. Valentina, William, thanks for being here and welcome to This Is Nashville. Really appreciate it. It's hard to hear you, Valentina. I think we're going to fix on that right now. Can you hear me, Valentina?
Yes.
Awesome. I can hear you too. Hey, it's 2023. We all know the Zoom problems. Okay, so you've been with the Sister Cities program for some time now. Tell us, how did you get involved?
Well, I work at a school in Mendoza, and my school is in charge of hosting the students who travel with Sister Cities. And I got in charge, I got involved in the program because when a delegation of adults came to Mendoza, one of the persons traveling got in touch with the person from my school, and that's how we got connected. And we started receiving students at the beginning because for different reasons we couldn't travel. But then in 2017, we traveled for the first time, and we have been there 5 times already.
Mm-hmm. Now take me back to when the first students from Nashville came to visit you in Mendoza. Tell us about that.
Well, that was for my students. It was a very exciting experience. They all wanted to host them, and they all wanted to have them at home, and it was something really new for them, and that's why they all were so interested in talking to them and learning about them and their culture. It was quite exciting.
Now, William, you've traveled to Mendoza last year. What was that experience like for you?
So for me, I was actually originally going to go to Caen, France, because French is my, I don't know how I would say it, but primary second language. But I also speak a little bit of Spanish. So I decided that it might be a good idea to do some immersion with that. So I signed up for the Mendoza program, and I got there, and I very quickly realized that my Spanish was not at the level I thought it was. But that was a good thing because, I was being exposed to this new environment, and I was in a homestay where we spoke Spanish, and it really, really improved my speaking abilities, my listening comprehension, really everything, to the point where now I'm able to work with, I do a job with refugees, and a lot of them speak Spanish. So that's really helpful for my work. But also, aside from the language piece, there's just the piece of seeing that the world is so much more than, the Bellevue suburbs, and so much more than Nashville.
How did you learn about the Sister Cities program?
So, yeah, I originally learned about it in high school because I believe that they had come and done an expose at the high school, just explaining what they're about and some of their different programs. And then in, I believe, 2019, there was some kind of 14th of July French independence or French Bastille Day celebration in downtown Nashville, and they had a booth there, and so I was able to talk to some of the directors and learn what it was all about.
Valentina, you've been to Nashville 5 times now, as you mentioned, as a part of the program. What was it like the first time you arrived here?
It was amazing for me and for my students because we are used to, my students, when they travel to the US, generally they go to Miami or Orlando, and that's all. Mm-hmm. And visiting Nashville, a very different place, and with country music, that is something that is totally different from what we hear, what we listen to here. And they were surprised by everything they saw, and me too, because I've also been to Miami, and visiting Nashville was quite an experience for all of us.
It sounds like you enjoyed your visit. Did you try hot chicken while you were here?
I did, but I'm sorry, I didn't like it.
Hey, it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. I will say that. Now, do me this favor. Describe Mendoza for us. How would you compare Mendoza to Nashville?
Well, Mendoza is, we are very near the Andes Mountains. So we are in the very, very south of South America. And to the west, we are in the limit with Chile, and we are separated by the mountains. So an hour away from Mendoza, you have very high mountains. And then our city is a small city, but we produce wine here. That's our main activity. So there are a lot of wineries, and that's when tourists come to Mendoza, that's what they like the most, to visit wineries. And
that sounds really awesome. Kind of hard for high school students, but it sounds absolutely wonderful. Now, William, I'm curious, Tell me, what sort of responsibility did you feel representing Nashville as a part of Sister Cities?
So I definitely felt a responsibility to kind of portray Nashville in a good light and portray like kind of what we're all about. But I definitely felt some additional responsibility because I was the oldest on the trip and I was the only one by the time like the trip was happening that had finished high school because it was in my senior year of high school that I went. But in terms of portraying Nashville, I think really the big challenge was recognizing that we do have a lot of cultural barriers and recognizing that there are a lot of things that are different about us, but also trying to integrate the things that are similar and trying to show them that, yes, we may be different in these ways, but these are some of the things that unite us too.
You mentioned that you were the oldest of this group of high school students. As a recent graduate yourself, you felt a responsibility for them. I'm curious about the conversations that you all had and some of the differences you all noticed. What did you guys talk about?
Well, it's a much more communal culture, I would say, in Mendoza, whereas in Nashville and I would say in the United States in general, we're a lot more individualistic. I don't want to say that it's more necessarily welcoming in Argentina, but it's welcoming in a different way. Like it's more normal to, I would say, invite someone that you just met for the first time, like to your house. Whereas in the United States, that's something that would be kind of a little more taboo. And so dealing with those new things to me, also like physical contact is a lot more common there. Like you give besos when you meet somebody, which is a kiss on. And so that was a big culture shock for me, and dealing with that and coming from a culture and like a household where that's not as common was big for me.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekalona. We're talking this hour about our Sister Cities program with Valentina Boulin and William Watson. Sarah Lingo with Sister Cities Nashville is still with us. Now, Sarah, for some people, traveling abroad is difficult and really, in some cases too expensive. And students who may be interested in the program, their families may not be able to afford all of the costs. How does Sister Cities, how does the program really help in that regard?
So there are really two ways to do this. One of the great things about Sister Cities is that you don't have to leave Nashville to travel. You can get an immersive international experience here in Nashville by hosting. By just being part of our events when people come into town. You don't even have to host in your home. We are always looking for volunteers to help us drive kids and adults around the city when they come. It's a very community-oriented organization that relies heavily on volunteers. Financially, though, we do offer scholarships, and we are a nonprofit, so we receive our majority of funding from Metro through a grant because we do serve the city in that way. But we take donations too. So if you're interested in helping a kid travel abroad, we certainly have opportunities for you to do that. And we, ask kids to apply for financial aid, and we go through those normal processes of one that gives out a scholarship. So
what's the age limit for people? Can, I, as a person who graduated high school a long time ago, take a part of this program?
Yeah. So, anybody can participate. So the best thing about it is, your grandmother can participate and your 5-year-old can participate. We don't send 5-year-olds abroad, but maybe someday. But, anybody can participate as, the hosting, the hospitality, the cultural events side that happen here in Nashville. Our student exchanges are for high school. We do have university exchanges. Those are coming back slowly after COVID. We had a bump in our international travel, as you can imagine. One of my hopes for our adult exchanges is to offer scholarships to young professionals or people who may not be able to otherwise travel. Some of the programs we do have an attorney exchange with France, and we do offer scholarships for that.
Now, I'm interested about some of the hosting that happened. Valentina, you work with students who've come to Nashville in the cultural exchange program. What have you really understood and learned about their experiences and benefits from being here?
Well, they enjoy it. They enjoy it a lot because we have very different cultures and even, I don't know, times when we have our meals, and we here in Argentina we eat late dinners, and so the times are different, and the families, of course, how the families function is very different. As William said, we kiss a lot, we hug a lot, and they have to learn about all those different culture, and that's interesting.
It's a lot of wonderful expressions of love. Sounds like my kind of place. Now, I understand that you're currently hosting someone from Nashville right now, right?
Yeah, he's here at home.
How is it going?
Well, they leave today, so it's been wonderful. Simon, one of the teachers who travel with the group of students, is staying at home, and it's been amazing. I love to host. I always host teachers when they come here to Mendoza, and it's a very nice experience for me and for my family too.
Do you all get a little bit sad when it's time to say goodbye?
Yeah, of course. Yes. It's very sad. Yes, because they become part of the family.
You know, William, tell me about your host family. What was that like?
So yeah, my host family was a lot like me, in that we were kind of all pretty introverted. And that was a super great fit for me because I'm not someone who is very extroverted. But I mean, they were super nice. They operated, I believe, a tortilla factory. And yeah, we would have dinner every night, and like we would go into the town and we would go into the city square and just see the things around the village or around the city. And we went on weekend trips when we could. I mean, there was only really one opportunity because of the program only lasting for 2 weeks, but it was really fun. They were super accommodating to really all of my needs. And yeah, living with a host family is really a great thing because beyond, living in another country, you get to see how people in that country live in like an authentic way and not in a way where you're kind of a stranger in somebody's house. You really feel like you're part of the family, even if it is like a 2-week experience.
Now, have your travels, have they influenced your plans for a career?
Oh, definitely. I love everything that's different from me, and the more different it is, the better. And so I have been wanting to get involved with something international for a long time, but traveling to Argentina and then traveling this coming fall to study abroad in France, I'm sure will really push me to take the next step and to look into what I can do that's international.
Okay, so what would you say to anyone, a student out there who may be listening, who's on the fence about traveling to a sister city or somewhere new? What would you say to them?
Oh, do it. Even if you don't think you're ready, like, you don't have to be ready. It's okay, because the host family will accommodate to what you need, and like your language skills will improve. And I mean, if that's the piece you're looking into for like a sister city experience, then the best thing that you can do is just kind of jump into it and really get into an environment where you're speaking the language, but also just learning about new cultures. I think it's a similar aspect where it's not something that you can really prepare for. You just got to do it.
Yep. You got to take the chance when it's there. Now, Valentina, tell me, have you been able to form long-lasting friendships from Sister Cities program?
Yes, definitely. Yes. In my case, I'm always hosted by the same family, and so they are my family now. Every time I travel there, I feel like I'm at home. And for my students, they all keep in touch with the students that they host, and of course they become family, and they have very, very long-lasting relationships.
Sarah, you're still smiling. Yeah. So we'll end with this. Why is it important that people be given the opportunity to travel and learn more about the world? We got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I think William said it best, and that was my experience traveling abroad. The first time I did it, I wanted more of that. I wanted to meet more people who were different, to see different things. In today's world, we are more globally connected than ever before. So it's really important to get on that train and go.
I want to thank all of my guests. College student William Watson, Valentina Boulin with Colegio, let me get this right, Colegio EC, and Sarah Lingo with Sister Cities Nashville. I want to thank you all for being here and being with us today, and keep on traveling, okay? And thanks to you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of WPLN News and Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by Tony Gonzalez. Our senior producer is Steve Harouche. Our digital lead is Anna Gallegos-Cannon. Michaela Elias is our technical director. Our executive producer is Andrea Tuttle. The masterminds behind our theme music are LaRange and Namir Blade. You can listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get your podcasts. And the conversation doesn't end here. Tweet us at This Is Nashville. Find us on Instagram and tell us what you want from our show by filling out our quick survey online. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekolona. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody, and be good to each other.